Meanwhile, we're going to start off, and while we are waiting, I want to look at why we are here. The Co-Carbon Exchange is a platform created in the last quarter of last year, and we quickly moved into COP25 to host a side event and introduce the organization to the rest of sustainability movement of the world, and hosted a side event there, announced what we want to do. And what we want to do is, as the world was revving up on creating a resurgence for the climate carbon market, we'll consider that Africa being a beneficiary of that emerging market, we should actually catalyze activities, both and in terms of offsets. And of course, I want to create massive knowledge, especially with respect to climate change, sustainability development goals, and the rest of activism that has to, engender the movement, the pathway to 2030 and onwards to 2050. And so we have created programs to that effect in terms of all aspects of economic activities. And that is why we now started using, earlier this year, we started using the webinar series to bring to the rest of the world what is possible in our space here. We've done a few things on plastic emission reduction, of course. We've worked with the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria, and we're creating emission reduction activities in that space. The whole essence is to ramp up mitigation activities, while we on the other side also try to engender adaptation on the other side. And so why we are looking at today agriculture and agribusiness emissions, I like to say a few things. I know that agriculture contributes 14% of global emissions, and we're talking about global emissions that are currently at 52.3 billion tons of carbon. And so agriculture is generating 7.3 billion tons of carbon equivalent of such emissions. And then when you come to the statistics in terms of food and non-food areas, you find that food production is about 27% of the agricultural emissions, and non-food is about 73%. And now every activity in the agricultural sector creates an emission, and that is the supply chain is about 18%, livestock and fisheries about 31%, crop production 27%, land use and land use change activities also has heavy contribution of 24%. And so the impacts on the food systems are going to be heavy, because agricultural production is likely to go down upwards of 5%, and that is incredible. If I rainfed crop production, we saw extreme erratic nature of the rain this year, and so nobody knows what's going to happen next year. As we speak, most crops in southern Nigeria, especially rice, they are flooded, the farms dried up, while in the north, that supposedly have been drier, rice plains were flooded, and Nigeria lost heavily. So these extreme differentials is going to continue, and it's expected by 2050 there could be declines upwards of 10%, especially in fish catch, if it continues this way. So we have created this so that we can have interaction on how agricultural activities, especially in respect of all practitioners, on-farm, off-farm, value chain, can begin to think agriculture, because essentially, initially it was like there is no carbon market or working in agriculture. So this is why we have created this, and we want to be happy that we have very erudite people who have joined, who have experience, who have knowledge, going to join us in this. Now, we see that the more food is produced, the more emissions are generated. That's obvious. And so per capita food-related greenhouse gas emissions for countries is showing that if emission is not equated to food production, it is higher than food production per capita. So that is another reason why we have to look at this event. Now, the eco-carbon exchange, therefore, is out for a global interaction and global usage to ensure that agricultural sector is placed in the carbon market. And that is why will be my introduction to this webinar. I want to see if the Honorable Commissioner is in space to talk to the House as a remark. Honorable Commissioner, the Honorable Commissioner of Lagos State.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Innocent Aziza.
I'm glad
my name is Abitola Olusoya, Acting Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to speak briefly on this topic around carbon offset and the revenue exploitation, especially how this can be beneficial to Lagos State, even though obviously we're talking about Nigeria and globally. Now in the agricultural space, and I was happy with the presentation you had just made around how Agric production activities actually lead to emissions of CO2, and then the impact of this in the long term. In Lagos State, for instance, being the smallest state in Nigeria, the smallest landmass, but with the highest population, with regards to agricultural production, it's not so much around crops, but more having to do with the livestock, animal husbandry activities. So Lagos State will be more focused on the likes of cattle, I wouldn't say feedlots per se, cattle feedlot system, but essentially Lagos acts as the hub for cattle intake in Nigeria because Lagos State consumes the most with regards to red meat. So the FAO statistics say that by year 2030, Nigeria would be consuming over 800,000 metric tons of beef annually. But we know for a fact that in Lagos already as it is, we are consuming about 600 to 700,000 metric tons of beef on an annual basis, and this is only going to grow. So the idea is how to establish cattle lot feed systems here in Lagos on a larger scale, such that with regards to logistics of moving this cattle from the north to the south, the impact is reduced and the CO2 emissions can be reduced. Also, with regards to aquaculture and fisheries, obviously Lagos State is also the largest producer of fish production, especially in the southwest, considering the aqua bodies that we have around us. And with over 400,000 metric tons.
Ik zit een webinar.
May I continue? With over 400,000 metric tons of fish in demand, and with Lagos producing only about 155,000 metric tons, the deficit is still quite huge. But even then, with regards to CO2 emissions, I believe that they're still quite high. So when I look at the livestock, animal husbandry, fishery sector of Lagos State agric production activities, these will obviously be the largest contributors to CO2. And then we now move into, let's say, forestry. So Lagos obviously being the state with the smallest land mass, it's imperative that we keep our forest reserves as much as possible. But then, because of the huge demand on housing, you see a lot of our forests also being converted So in terms of the land use changes, Lagos is most affected by these activities of deforestation. Part of the agenda under the administration of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu is the Green Wall Initiative, also to continue to do afforestation activities. And under the Department of Forestry, what we are doing now is to, in the next 5 to 10 years, to be able to plant at least 10 million trees in and around the forest reserves. And then we also have the coconut belt, where Lagos has over 180 kilometers coastal line. And the plan also is to ensure that we plant well over 10 million coconut trees. We believe that these would help with regards to reducing the carbon emission, or at least absorbing some carbon emissions, and hopefully leads to some form of carbon credits. Currently, the Department of the Coconut Development Authority, in talks with the FAO, we are trying to work on a collaborative arrangement, especially around this, to drive our carbon credits as well. So with regards to what we are doing around livestock, animal husbandry, aquaculture, the plan is in moving forward to develop cluster activities such that we can begin to enumerate, we can begin to take data to see what our emissions would be like, basis the level of productivity, and to see how wastes can also be converted to biofuels, such that in a way we are having an integrated system around food production in Lagos to reduce waste emissions, to reduce carbon emissions as well, and then to see how with time we can begin to convert some of these to carbon credits for revenues for Lagos as a whole. So I'm not a subject matter expert in this area, but at least I believe that with the little we are doing in this space in this short term, and what we'll be able to do long term, we'll be able to see the effects, especially in and around Lagos going forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, Honorable Commissioner, we're thankful to you, and that was a very brilliant rendition of course, what the Center of Excellence is doing in Lagos State. Lagos State, 40% economy of Nigeria, and growing. So it's really heartwarming to know that doing big stuff in trying to hem in emission contribution, emission footprint of the agriculture sector in Lagos State. We want to appreciate you, and we want to believe that you hang around so that I can take in from subject matter specialists. Of course, you have spoken like one, so that you can add to all the ideas that are going to bring into this. Thank you very much. You've spoken very well. And the agroforestry in terms of coconut,
thank you,
is a big space for you, a big space given the coastlines, and it's something that you can actually can lead the rest of coastline states in this country. And then the biogas, given that you already have stated what it is, almost all the cattle, that move around the country move down to Lagos and get consumed. Another set comes down. And so all the abattoirs and a lot of things that could be done. Almost everything that happened in the abattoir system, you can gain emission offsets from them when it is appropriately, organized to be aggregated. Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. Please do stay in, and I know you may have questions, but yeah, thank you very much. We want to continue.
Thank you very much, sir.
Very well, thank you. With Professor Vijay. Professor Vijay, are you online already? Professor Vijay is a professor of engineering, and he has gone in to do a lot of things in the renewable sector. Professor Vijay is a researcher, is an author. It's many things in Indian technology space, and we found him out, and he has been ever ready to give us a bit of what he's doing, where we're going to probably states like Lagos and Nigeria and West Africa will benefit in terms of projects that could translate to. Professor Vijay, are you with us? Hello, Prof. I guess Professor Vijay hasn't come online still. Well, we have one of our other speakers, which is Mrs. Hammond. Ms. Hammond, like I said, is a banker, many years standing, has veered into governance space and bringing the financial experience to bear. Of course, agriculture is a sector that receives so much from finance. And now when she veered again towards sustainable development and employment. She's also the acting commissioner on employment in Lagos State. So it behoves that if Lagos is going to be a sustainable city, sustainable state, the whole of that work is resting on our shoulders. And it also means that what Mrs. Abisola Olusola, the Commissioner of Agriculture, has said with respect to programs and plannings that will happen in the agriculture sector will have a lot of imprint from the special advisor to the governor. So we would like at this point to listen to Mrs. Hammond on the subnational preparations, subnational responses with respect to getting agriculture really green, not just the leaves green, but the entire brown spaces being green. Ms. Hammond, we are all ears to listen to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I thought, thank you very much, Mr. Innocent Abi. I thought I was going to go on after a lot of the Agric experts had spoken, but I'm very happy to follow my sister, the Honorable Commissioner Agric in Lagos. I was a one-time acting commissioner for wealth creation and employment, but that was only for a few months. So my role in Lagos just now is just focused on the sustainable development goals and investment. So as you said, for those two reasons, I'm particularly interested in this because it's beyond, just from the perspective of sustainability, from the perspective of attracting into Lagos, not just for the Lagos state government, but also for businesses that operate in Lagos and just basically making this a conducive environment for investments, and also one that is creating new opportunities. This is certainly an area of interest. So again, just to follow on some of the things that I think the Honorable Commissioner really spoke to very well, is to highlight the fact that while agriculture has always been a very important thing to Lagos, and Lagos State has been making investments in this area for a while, I think the COVID-19 pandemic really brought home just how important food security was. It was something we spoke about and mentioned, but we lived it in reality in the months, particularly in the months when there was a lockdown. I imagine if Lagos had been locked down for perhaps another 1 more month, or the rest of the world globally had been locked down and the supply chain continued to be basically broken, we would have had a real crisis on our hands because, as you know, bulk of everything that's eaten in Lagos is not produced here. So you have 20, can you imagine 26 million people hungry? It would not have been a pretty sight at all. And that for us really reinforced the importance of being food secure and finding better ways to provide that, at least ensure that some of that production that's required is done here, and to ensure that we maintain strategic reserves. I think for me, the opportunity around this is sort of fourfold. The first is, as I said, it's important that even though small nation that, or small states that we are within the nation, we are to some extent food secure. So how do we do that with very limited space and a lot of mouths to feed? And I think one of the countries we can look to is, and we do look to, is the Netherlands, which is also a very small company, a small country, but is the second largest exporter of agriculture across the entire world. I think statistics say they exported somewhere over $100 billion of agricultural products, including their famous flowers, about $10 billion in flowers, and $7.4 billion in vegetables. Even if Lagos could do that, we would be, very happy. And that's just one subsegment of the things that they do. I know one of the other initiatives the Commissioner for Agriculture is working on is increased yields. And from, your presentation earlier, which was also very insightful, and I caught a few things there. If 21% of the emissions come from crop production for human consumption, and we can increase those yields just, twofold or threefold, because everywhere you look at yields on maize, you look at yields on most of our products, we're usually at about 10% of what some of the best countries in the world are doing. So maize per ton, maybe we do 2.5, 3 tons, 3 tons per hectare. I think the highest in this part of Africa is probably about 7 tons per hectare. But in Thailand, they're doing 20, 25 tons per hectare. So you want to boost that. Even if we only get to 10 or 12, then that's making a dramatic increase just even on the efficiency of the land that we're using. So increased yields is one of the things that we're working on, and better practices. And I'd like to mention for that, one of the farms that we have, one of the big farm estates that Lagos has, which I think is one of the things she's trying to revamp, the Songhai farm, which is sort of modeled after the Thai King's Farm model, which is another country to really look to. I find what Thailand has done with regards to food very interesting, where they have a King's Farm where they model a lot of innovations. And once they've perfected them, they then teach them to farmers all across the country. And we would love to be able to do that in Lagos State, working with, even just the farmers that we have, private farmers, small scale farmers, but also farmers that are trained and put in our, and worked with to operate our farm estates. So the Ministry of Agriculture trains over 1,000 people every year in our Agric project or program. And these are young people who are trained to use farming methods, and then encouraged by giving them allocation of land or cages or whatever it is that they require for seafood production. So that is something else that we're doing: increased yields, better practices. I think the Honorable Commissioner also mentioned the significant loss of wetlands, largely due to illegal building and the tree cover that we're trying to target that we have. But one of the things I'm even speaking to and challenging is, apart from having just the sheer number of trees that we would like to work towards, to have a percentage covering that we would be achieving. So if we set a 10% covering, so for example, the UK has set a 17% cover as a target. So I think it's important to also have a target, not just for a number of trees that perhaps could be clustered in a location, but even a percentage covering of the state, so that we don't have all these built up areas that are very, very hot. And I know Last Park works in conjunction with the Forestry Division of the Ministry of Agriculture. They had a recent program, which I'm very excited about. So basically 5 for 1. So essentially for every 1 tree that has to be cut down, 5 trees to be planted to replace that. So again, very interesting. The other thing I love about what Thailand does is, on my visit there, I noticed pretty much everything is a farm. So if there's a ditch on the side of the road, it's a farm. On their bridges, they're growing rice. Everywhere is a farm. And there are a few startups that I know are doing interesting things in this area. I know there's Vegetables Hub. There was another one I read about recently. I haven't met them, but I would love to meet them, who are doing very exciting things and turning urban locations into farms. So Vegetable Hub had a package where they would work with you to look at, your beautification in your house. So you live in a little flat. They will help you create a vertical farm. If you had, maybe you had a duplex to yourself. Well, you have this plant here. It looks like a pineapple, so why don't we replace it with pineapple? So instead of growing flowers for beautification, we could actually grow organic farms. And they had this whole system where they trained gardeners who could then come and support you if you didn't have the time or the green thumb to take care of these plants. And that way we're actually increasing the footprint of organic food. They were also supposed to have created an organic marketplace for people to also trade, because you might create more than you need. And I think those are some of the ways that we can begin to do things properly, grow organic food, increase the yield of food while reducing our footprint on the earth. So I think that's really great. I think the last thing I would love to talk about before closing is just the policy angle of it. So what's the government itself doing? So apart from the initiatives that we're running, what are we putting in place to create that structure? Bisla had also mentioned the challenge with data and measurement, and you can't basically manage what you don't measure. And we all know we're quite data poor. So a few things that the Lagos State government is putting in place. We have a climate change council that under the Ministry of Environment that is looking at all the things that we're doing from a climate resilience perspective. We have a Lagos State Resilience Office under architect Bola Haoki, which is funded by the Rockefeller in 50 cities across the world. And of course, we have our SDG office. We have started a process of conducting sustainability assessments, looking at all that we're doing with regards to achieving the SDGs. Our first assessment has recently been completed. The results will be out later in this month. And all of that just basically to ensure that we are measuring what it is that we're doing and making sure that we're managing it. I think the last thing I want to talk about is the Green Bond Framework. We're also working on a Green Bond Framework. There's a lot of funding available for the things that we want to do and for basically being green. And we think we would like to pursue that kind of funding because it's funding for doing things the right way. But there's a process to doing that, and it's a very exciting process that we've undertaken, and that's something that we're working on. There's $1 billion it's estimated that globally about $1 billion is needed. So $1 trillion is needed for green, or is possible for green projects across the world. $250 billion has already been raised by countries around the world, of which Nigeria has only accessed $100 million. So in addition to carbon credits, that's actually another
the online has broken. Sorakwe, are you still speaking? I think she already has given us the meat of the activism on her desk. Yeah, are you still there? I think her network has an issue. Okay, just again to say we've been expecting Professor Vijay to come online. Professor Vijay, are you here now? Okay, you're back. Okay, so if you have not unmute, and then if you have not given us your last line, maybe you want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the last thing was that you said. The last thing I actually said was handing over back to you, and then I got cut off, so I thought I had finished everything.
Very well.
You heard what I said in Bond Framework. That was the last.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, great. That was it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a great thing, and I'm really, excited that you while you have your hands full, you understand every bit of them. And you're working. Lagos has always had a great team in developing, in getting this, and Lagos has a great job on his hand. So maybe by the time we get to the question time, audience will ask some more questions that you surely, I believe, will be able to, feed the answers. We have been asking Professor Vijay of Indian Institute of Technology to, respond if he's online, but it looks like we're yet to have him. Meanwhile, we have another key, speaker here. John Willem Van Ness is a man that, has done so much within this sector without even knowing essentially he was going to end up being, if it's an on-farm activist, So he has done a lot in the value chain, and of course, transpassed also the energy chain, and these two comes to meet in the sustainability field. As we speak, he has entered real climate smart, practitioner very deeply. And we want to, understand his how he's done what he's done, to share his experience in his presentation. And then from there, we will want to link up all the things we heard into the the market space, the carbon market space. Shalakwa has given us a little bit of that with respect to what the state plans to do in terms of policy, in terms of practice programs and all of that. Okay, but now we want to hear a private practitioner far away in Uganda who has been doing great things. John, are you on still? Can you go ahead now? Hello, John. Hello. It looks like John also been caught up in the technology web. Yeah, okay. Jana, I've been trying to say a little about you in terms of your experience and what you've done across sectors and within the sector and in the value chain of it before even venturing into climate smart farming yourself. So I want you to make your presentation and then we can take it up from there. It's muted again. I think it's having issues with technology or something. Hello, John. Hello. Okay. Yeah. John, can we have your presentation, please? I think it's having issues. Okay. We have Kola with us. I saw him. Kola Masha, like I said, has done a lot of things trying to develop initiatives in the Agric space, bringing youth players into it, bringing all of them together. Kola, if you are on, can we have you?
Hello, how are you doing?
I am good. I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Good to see you as well.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. Well, well, thank you for having me on. I think just maybe to provide some context on the work that we do and the intersection with the work here. So our organization, Babangona, is the single largest maize producing entity in West Africa. This season alone, we are farming an area of 80,000 acres, an area equivalent, actually larger than the city of Abuja, and equivalent to about 5 Manhattans. The model we use is a model we've developed called an agricultural franchise that basically franchises a network of grassroots level farmer cooperatives and provides these cooperatives a full suite of services, from training to credit to inputs, and finally storage and marketing. This holistic package of inputs enables the average Babangona member to attain yields that are about 2 times national average and net incomes at about 2.5 times national average. To date, we have supported cumulatively over 110,000 smallholder farmers, predominantly in northern Nigeria. Now, I think for us, I think there's really 2 key things that are very important to us as it comes to climate change. The first is really around adaptation. At the end of the day, the African smallholder farmer, unfortunately, is probably going to be one of the groups most impacted by climate change. We are already seeing significant impacts in terms of lack of predictability of weather patterns, right? You used to be able to set your clock in many parts of the country by when the rain started. Today, that is much less certain. And then in addition, you're also seeing shifts in how long the rain lasts. And so you're now seeing rains actually last much longer, which may sound like a good thing, but the reality is it can actually have significant impact on the quality of the products harvested and cause losses in post-harvest. Now, the reality is, as an organization, we've been quite innovative in our approach to help smallholder farmers adapt to climate change. I think we've taken really two key approaches here. The first is really around providing them the right technology to manage some of this lack of challenges that we've seen with the weather patterns. So we provide them drought-tolerant seed varieties that enable them to ride out some of the challenges that we see, where at the beginning of the season you think the rains have stabilized, but unfortunately they have not, and you get these mini droughts. In addition, we've really innovated and developed not one, not two, but actually 3 innovative insurance products to enable smallholder farmers to protect them from some of the challenges associated with the risks of inclement weather. So those are the 2 key ways we're helping our members adapt. Now, in addition to that, we are also playing an active role in mitigation as well. Key things that we're doing on the mitigation side are practices to help our members practice microdosing that helps them minimize the amount of fertilizers that they use on their farms, in effect reducing their carbon footprint. In addition, we have run pilots around helping farmers sequester carbon in their farms, helping them simultaneously build up their soil or organic matter as well, amongst many other steps. Now, I think one of the most critical that we are supporting with is the fact that we're helping farmers transition from a traditional practice of slash and burn agriculture to being able to manage their existing farm much more sustainably. And so by accomplishing this, you are reducing the tendency to have to go and continuously slash and burn new farmland, which also significantly reduces carbon emissions. And in reality, Africa has relatively limited carbon emissions compared to the rest of the world, but slash and burn agriculture does contribute significantly to Africa's contribution. So I think at this juncture, I will pause to see if there are any questions. I think you're on mute.
Yes, it's true. I'm saying that's of course, I have always known what you're doing and followed you. And to know the mammoth crowd of smallholder farmers that you are empowering, and you are also willing them towards the sustainable practice is really interesting. But I know that participants in this seminar will have more questions. Now, it's important also for us that smallholder farmers begin also to earn compensatory carbon incomes from the little they are doing, either through carbon farming, either through system of rice intensification, and even in terms of managing animal waste, systems of land use and land use change systems. So what we do here is to bring bring these practices in the loop so that we can aggregate avoided emissions in the process, that they can now be quantified and placed on the carbon exchange. When it comes into the carbon exchange, we mobilize offsets to that effect, which begins to earn them some income, which is an addition to whatever they've been getting from on-farm activities. And of course, your value chain, I know, the maize that is produced do not end, just in your warehouses. It gets some levels, and there are emissions attached to this, which we also would like to just get data on them. But you will have to, shed more light on this after when we get into, just put it down, and then when we get into the response session, you'll be able to let us know how you can get them to benefit from this. And John William is back, and we are glad to have him. I think he's been muted all the while. John, I've introduced you about 3 times, but now you're here. I want to say it's good to see you, John. Yeah, I've said that you've been in almost on the every value chain in agriculture. You've done so much, and then right now you are even into the on-farm climate smart farming yourself. You are generating, you are helping to avoid emissions. Okay, and then the issue here is how your emissions are avoided in your farm practices will have to be moved into the carbon system, the carbon market system. But let us hear your presentation and what you want to tell our audience. You're welcome, John.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome to everyone. I'm pleased to be here in this lovely group, speaking about how we can make a difference. Make a difference by doing better. Apologies for my delay. Somehow my computer decided to let me down, so I quickly had to switch devices. But that's maybe also a good indicator inherent to my life as a farmer. If things don't go the way that you expect them, you have to adapt. So here we are. Yeah, now thank you, Innocent, for inviting me, for making that connections, and on behalf of EcoCarbon Exchange, giving me the opportunity to speak about sustainable practices for carbon revenues. I'm indeed a farmer. I welcome everyone. I'm speaking from Jinja in Uganda. We are here at the source of the River Nile. People call it the Pearl of Africa in Uganda, the famous visit beginning of the previous century of Churchill, who labeled this area as the Pearl of Africa. Which is a link also to my my ideas, my driver, why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because when he was here in the beginning of the previous century, it was actually the flipping point, the turning point between traditional farming practices like our ancestors had been doing thousands of years since they changed from collectors to farmers and settled in places. It changed at that time to the industrial farming systems where artificial fertilizers, where plowing became possible through the mechanization, and where the chemical pesticides, chemical crop protection, as they call it, also was developed. Yeah. Previous speakers I've heard also speaking about saying the word innovation. Now we need innovations. We've been a part of 100 years of actually, in my opinion, destructive farming. People call it conventional farming, industrial farming, commercial farming. I call it destructive farming. And we now know that it contributes so much to the climate change, because what we do is actually extracting carbon from our soils. So other than focusing on carbon revenues, which definitely I will come towards a little bit later in my 10 minutes presentation. What we are doing in farming currently not only large scale, not only commercial, but also the 80% of the world's food produced by smallholders is reducing carbon emissions, because how we treat the soil, and we never feed the soil. We never feed the soil, we only harvest, we extract. So on our farm, we have introduced circular regenerative practices. Yes, we remove, of course, what we have harvested, but we make sure that we regenerate within our farm, circular, mixed farming with animals and horticulture. And we bring, of course, from outside large volumes of materials, waste products, byproducts from food industries or paper industries, and from the rivers. Weeds like water hyacinth are for us a very valuable source of nutrients for our plants. Water lettuce, which we first feed to the animals, and then the animal through its dung goes into the water, and the water again grows the plants. Everything is in circles. Allow me maybe in a small sidestep also to explain that the difference between how I see often farming in the developed world, in Northern Americas, in Europe, in Australia, especially those farmers that have adopted organic practices. As the lady said, there are maybe a difference of here in Africa, maybe only 20% of the yield which is achieved elsewhere. Well, in my opinion, in my 10 years experience now in Africa, that is the consequence of people feeling that wealth here is related to a title deed. A title deed for a farm, whereas farmers in the countries where I come from originally, I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland. The value of a farm is the quality of the dirt. It's not a book of title deeds which makes a farmer successful. It is how he is treating his dirt. We are very often are training smallholder farmers. We very often train youth groups, women groups. And I always ask them the question, how come that you feed your children 3 times a day and you still expect a tree or a crop to survive with maybe a small handful of compost? Feed your soils, very important. So what I said, innovations, we should rather bring back the practices which our ancestors, our grandparents were implementing. Because farming is a race to keep your soils feeded. Where to get your nitrogen, where to get your phosphorus, your potassium, your lime, your magnesium, all those nutrients, about 20. Without that, it can't work. I always see people speaking about IT, about artificial intelligence, about plowing, about seed quality, about GMO. What we really need to focus on is soil. Bring back. Carbon is one of the big issues. Climate change is, of course, also contributing to reduced yields, but climate change is on top of the other issues. Carbon, we need carbon in our soils. Carbon is the host. Carbon is the place where the microbes are growing. Carbon is where the water is being held, preventing drying of your soils, reduction of your moisture. So what we are doing is, how we farm low cost, is that companies around us, we have agreed with them, they bring their byproducts, their waste products to our farm for us to be processed into compost. Compost, potting earth that we use in our farm, and that also more and more. Yeah, thank you. That more and more also other farmers, commercial farmers, see the importance and the quality of that. So we start supplying compost now also to others. Compost that we make as per our recipes. What I also would like to introduce to you after this this introduction of how we in our farm are working and seeing everything in a circular way is an initiative from Holland. I'm a member of the Fairshare Cooperation. Fairshare, one of the initiator, Boudewijn, is also listening in. Boudewijn, good afternoon. I'm now starting to speak about the really good initiative that you have put into place, where smallholder systems, groups of about maybe 150, 180 smallholders together will build a center. We call that the Reach and Teach Center, where organic material is being carbonized. There's an installation by a company called Net Energy, where you put in as inputs the carbon, let's say sorghum or let's say sugarcane toppings, waste products, and then is processed into pyrolysis, into wood vinegar, into biochar, and into gas, syngas. So all those streams have a value. Biochar not only to burn but also to bring back into your soils. Wood vinegar, soil amendment, insecticide, and pyrolysis is actually a crude oil, which can be burnt by maybe a vegetable oil refinery as alternative to the fossil oils. So if you bring together smallholder farmers, if you have all this system because of the biochar not being burnt, but the biochar being buried in the soil as a soil amendment, you can have partners in Europe that need to compensate for their CO2 emissions. So that is then the revenue stream that finances the pyrolysis machine and finances the farmers. And then the third partner, then of course, would be the cooperation, one of the members, who would be also have some sweet equity in that machine and that process, and that local group where carbon revenues are being generated and shared with the base of the pyramid, with the people. Because, and then maybe this is one of my last remarks, and other questions I'm happy then to answer in the plenary discussion that I think we have a little after now. We are here in Busoga. Busoga was 50 years ago the breadbasket of Kampala, of Nairobi. It happened to be full with bananas and other food crops. Today, it's, I wouldn't say deserted, it's not empty, but the quality of the soils is so bad. It's not sustaining any farming anymore other than sugarcane. There's a lot of sugarcane. But all the smallholder farmers have the same problem. No yields. It's gone, it's finished. That has to be reversed. So I'm here today to explain my thoughts, where I come from. I'm here today to introduce the Fairshare Carbon and Soil Initiative, which we call Reach and Teach. Above everything, I'm here, physically here in Jinja. I want to help all those smallholder farmers to increase their livelihood, to improve what they're doing, and making sure that their efforts in their gardens, in their shambas, is resulting in something. Resulting in opportunity to make sure that their children go to school, that they can pay the medical bills, but above everything, that we here sequester carbon and make sure that the climate change contribute to that process to mitigate climate change through increase of greenhouse gases like CO2.
Thank you very much, Jan. That's rich experience you've shared there. Obviously, the soil is actually the starting point, for agricultural production, and it's also a basic fundamental of care if we have to reduce emissions that come from agricultural production. So carbon farming is critical. Ability of any farming agricultural practice to keep carbon in the atmosphere, in the soil, will not allow it to be moved into the atmosphere. So this is very, very, very key. That technology that will enable us to look towards, converting rubbles into the carbon, into the soil, so that they can reduce the dependence on agrochemicals. Will be very, very useful, especially at the level of the smallholder farmers. Compost, development and marketing. What I'm trying to say, business, major business component of the value chain, and we expect that, however technical it may be, however difficult it might be, there are simple measures that will enable it to, for farmers to easily apply composting or receive compost, supplies for compost developers, which will enhance the adaptation, to climate smart agriculture. So your experience has been very, very useful, because it's one of the things that if we're able to develop that part of farming, then we'll be able also to identify avoided emissions by reason of producing 1 ton of any commodity. And once the carbon exchange, eco-carbon, for instance, is able to aggregate or quantify that, beyond the business as usual process of production, that 1 ton of beef, 1 ton of maize, 1 ton of rice have been produced, lower than the emission that would have been possible with fertilizer and all that, because a system of intensification or a system of carbon emission avoidance applied, it becomes another source of revenue for the producers. That's the reason why we have packaged this meeting together as a way of education, a way of sensitization, and of course, as another business line for those who are in that sector. Thank you very much, John, and I believe that both our policy people and the rest of practitioners are also seeing that this is really taking a new trajectory, which is open for exploitation, for exploration and exploitation too. While we are having speakers, please, if you have questions, you can put down your question, even though we're going to have oral, we're still going to have oral questions, but you can put down questions first in the chat box. That will help those who respond to be rummaging over what the answers or responses will be. While also listening to the presentation, I've also welcomed Mr. Samuel Fossen from Okomu Oil Palm PLC. Okomu is a major player in the oil palm agroforestry entire value chain, in both palm development, nurturing, harvesting, processing, marketing, and even to secondary level of processing and all that. So they are deep into that. And when I had it somehow, I understand that Mr. Fossen is the one who is ensuring that the entire process of oil palm development and the rest of the value chains in terms of byproducts of processing and all of those are sustainably carried out. And so we wanted them to represent agro-industry in that process, because they're on farm, they're also on the processing line. So, Mr. Samuel Fossen, we had asked for our speaker at the house earlier, but you hadn't come. If you are still online, can you greet the house and please you make a presentation to us? Yeah, Samuel, good. Unmute yourself.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Innocent. It's good to be on this platform. And this is one of the things that we jar on in the agricultural industry, where we can actually talk about sustainability and how well we can enhance the environment. So it's been a good platform. And I want to say a very big thank you. And looking at the palm oil industry, especially in Nigeria, where sustainability practices are on the low side, a lot has to be done to protect the environment. And the best practice, best approach we can actually use is absorbing a lot of sustainability standards to help mitigate issues arising in polluting the environment. And looking at the palm oil sector, for instance, where we come from, Okumu is also is into plantation of oil palm, and of course we make sure that our processes and everything that we do is done in a way where sustainability is mostly achieved. And looking at the palm tree, for instance, a native of West Africa and flourishes in the human tropics and produces high yield when grown 10 degrees north and south of the equator. And of course, every oil palm tree requires approximately 3 diameter clear around the base of each tree to allow full growth. And oil palm is highly productive crop, which is capable of yielding more oil from less land than any other vegetable oil in existence, and can produce outgoing fruit of up to 30 years, deeming the crop as high yielding and sustainable. The first step of reducing the carbon footprint and reducing greenhouse gases emission is to carry out a quantitative analysis, that is an algebraic sum of the greenhouse gas sequestration and emissions caused directly or indirectly by the company for a defined period of time. And we in Okomu, what we've done, we've carried out a high carbon stock analysis and assessment, if you may call, that actually tells us, okay, what are you emitting and how far what is being sequestered by the forest that you have around. And so that's one of the key things that palm industries especially to emulate, to do these things so that you get to know where you are and what you tend to achieve. And of course, you have to have sustainability goals too, where you want to achieve to make sure that you are not actually polluting the environment, even with your operations, which you know we definitely pollute the environment. And so we also have carbon emission and sequestration in oil palm production, which is the activities in descending order that contributes mostly to the greenhouse gas emissions, are the use of nitrogen fertilizers, discharge of palm oil effluent, which is the POME, and of course, during your transportation of bunches to the mill and land use change, all of these contribute to this pollution. And of course, the oil palm has the capacity to sequester just 6.1 tons of carbon per year. And with increasing age of palms, more carbon is fixed on sequestered, keeping in mind that biomass is proportional to the amount of the carbon stored. And so studies further revealed that for each ton of oil palm FFB, the palm sequestered 606 kg of CO2. Then carbon footprint is a benchmark for internal management of greenhouse emissions, and a mitigation plan to harness the benefits of carbon farming is in existence to improve the carbon balance. What we do here is mostly things like this. We try to increase the use of organic fertilizer using the empty fruit bunches, whether it is shredded or a whole. We try to use it for our operations either by producing electricity, which is through the turbine use, or we use it as fertilizer back into the feed. And this is not only for reuse, you also use it also to manage the waste that you are generating. And of course, planting oil palms only on degraded land or with low biomass accumulated after sufficient HCV or HCS assessment have been carried out. And of course, use of turbine powered from steam generated through cogeneration of biomass, which is fiber and shell, will also help reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. And of course, use of fossil fuel for efficient vehicles for transportation of the FFA, and also for your other operations whereby you use machineries that runs on fossil fuel. And so you have to use efficient vehicles so that the emissions are reduced. And of course, management of conservation areas, which we try to get a lot of conservation areas, and an HCV assessment is carried out, whereby these areas are no longer tempered with after the HCV assessment. So you have to maintain that to help you control the emissions of the greenhouse gases that you have. And also the use of an efficient and industry-specific online calculator, which is mostly the PAM GHG, has also helped Okomo to calculate on an annual basis the total CO2, which gives a good knowledge of Okomo carbon footprint. And our project is planned in coming years to be verified through the VERA. That's the issuance of verified carbon units. And that is what we are proposing for the future to help us see, okay, this is how well we would do in this kind of, and with people going into carbon trading markets, we hope to also go into that when we've been able to get enough carbon stock calculated out and we have enough of credits. And also, going into sustainability standards like the RSPO, which Okomo is currently certified for, is known for sustainability. And of course, Okomo currently bets into the carbon trading market by selling RSPO credits, which is equivalent to sustainable palm oil tonnage available within a period of time, and through the RSPO Palm Trace platform. Palm Trace also offers a market and the possibility to register your off-market deals, and all this comes from sustainability. And also, currently, revenues are acquired through the sale of RSPO credits, and we also have plans which are initially geared towards integration into the carbon trading market, hopefully through the VHC program, so as to turn our GHG optimization actions into tradable carbon credits. That is after regulating our ops to carbon neutral. Then futuristically, the company hopes to list actions, projects, and offsets local and international travels on the Eco Carbon Exchange. And that's why we're interested in this program, to see how well we can manage our activities or our operations with the new trends in the market, especially with carbon. And so all of these help us to manage the operations and to know how far we are managing the environment too. And Okomo is also certified in other standard, which is the ISO 14001, which has to do with environment. And you also have to do a lot of studies to keep your operations in check, just to make sure you are not causing more harm to the environment. And not only for the air, which is the CO2, we're monitoring the carbon stock and all that. We also go into other natural resources, which the operations might have an impact on. And so using all of these standards in Okomo operations help us to actually manage our activities and to make sure we're in the right direction, not forgetting that objectives have been set for each of these parameters, whether it is air, whether it's for the land and others. So the company knows that we have a limit to where we can push our production into. And of course, because the oil palm industry, you can never remove polluting the environment from it. So you have to make sure that you are geared towards the right direction in protecting the environment. Not forgetting that it also benefits the company in putting your name on this platform, whereby it shows that you're actually producing sustainably, and also it gives you an edge when you come out among others in the trade market. Of course, sustainability these days is putting a lot of companies on the top notch to also make people more interested in your operations and want to know how well you carry out your operations. And that's it so far. Thank you very much, Mr. Innocent.
That's brilliant. Excellent. Because, I happen to also interfere with Okomo to some extent. And, you know, what you're doing is really great because I know that recently we had the event where the governor of Edo State launched a new oil palm development program. And after that meeting, some of us who came from Lagos, he hosted us to, you know, one kind of, you know, entertainment. And I mentioned to him, now you're scaling up oil palm development in your state. We are available to mop up all the carbon reduction that will happen in terms of mitigation, even by adaptation. And he was so happy to that. And with you there, I think that could be done, especially when you have to start early, so that you're not going to be doing a backward aggregation, but you follow development. And I want to appreciate, because I've been to Okomo myself, and I've seen, you know, expansion that you've been doing. And I would say that Eco Carbon Exchange is actually out here to work with what you are doing. Okay, you need to earn all your money, and you don't need to trek far. Okay, we are next neighbor in Lagos, and virtually we're everywhere around the world. And so we will take this engagement further. And I'm sure that a lot more interested parties that have listened to you would see how you are doing. And then, but the most important thing, the most important message you will pass it through is that, hey, you know, you've gone to Vera. Vera was in our last webinar, okay? One of their key programs. It was in our September webinar. And of course, they agree that, look, we have started some revolution around here because there are a whole lot of carbon wasting away, and some efforts that are, you know, are being done by activities like yours and some SMEs too, is not being captured, and they're losing money. And people who want to offset on their footprints are not finding it, you know, easy to go doing that. You just mentioned, you know, flight, your transportation footprint. So a whole lot can be done together if we work the way we are working. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I'm sure that a lot of other people are going to be asking you questions. So we're going to get into that question. But I want to find out if we now have Ayodeji Ayobalogun of FX Security, carbon commodities rather, has done real tremendous stuff. I know you know, operating the value chain in terms of the logistics end of agriculture. So I want to know if Ayo has joined Ayodeji Balogun of FX Securities. Are you online with us? It looks like he hasn't come. Well, we want to appreciate everybody, and then we want to ask all the questions. Somebody asked Kola about biochar. Kola, are you there? You need to unmute now. Hello, Kola.
Yes, I am.
Yes, please. I'm sure you saw that the way I saw it. So can you respond?
So with regards to biochar. So I think biochar has tremendous potential. I think for us, I think one of the big pieces has been, I think the challenges to adopting it right now is just the process of producing it and figuring out a way to do that in a very efficient manner that does not require a large investment in capital. So I think those have been a couple of the hurdles, but I think at the end of the day, it has a tremendous amount of promise.
Okay. Okay, before we continue on the question, I think we have the representative of Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mr. Cyril. Mr. Cyril, are you there now? Hello? Hello, Mr. Sarah. Okay, meanwhile, probably technology is also interfering somewhere. We want anyone who wants to ask verbal questions to, to take this time now. You can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself and attempt to speak so we can recognize you. Is there anyone in the house who wants to ask a question?
So here's a question from, and then please let me introduce myself. My name is Mashood, and I'm from Pakistan. Currently, I'm working with two great organizations. One is CABI and the other is WW of Pakistan, and we are into organic cotton. We are working with 16,000 farmers, and we are exporting to like 4 or 5 countries. My question about eco-carbon is that do we tend to have a trading platform of carbon?
Yeah, surely. What we want to do, we want to, from the voluntary perspective, yes, we want to provide a platform for offsets on reduced emissions in activities. It's not the the regulatory style, the non-voluntary. But the most important thing is that we recognize emission reductions, and when we create tradable packages for it and put them on the offset, on the platform, and then mobilize offset activities on them. So if you have a project that is really reducing emissions, this is where to be. We know that the regulated systems are also out there, but we are working on the voluntary framework. Magdum, did you get my response? Great. Okay.
Yes, but there's a noise in the background, so I'm just muted myself.
Maybe I should repeat myself. I just said that yes, we are creating offset packages for avoided emissions or reduced emission practices that have been verified, validated through our process. Is under the voluntary mechanism, not the state compliance system. So these are tradable funds. When you go to our platform, you see that we can trade, not the way compliance systems want you to buy CR, but the way that we quantify and validate or verify and validate that given levels of emission have been avoided by given kind of practices, and then we bring this on the exchange, and they create offset activities, mobilize offset on them by all who are interested in ensuring that 2030 ambition is achieved.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. Somebody is. Yes. Can we have your? Yes.
Hello. Can I speak?
Okay.
Are you addressing me? Can I speak?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi. My name is Paul Anderson. I'm a retired university professor in the United States. Been to Africa many times, project in Uganda and Mozambique, etc. I am a specialist in the production of biochar, production methods. And there's been some discussion on the chat lines there, and I thought I would put a face to it and wave to everybody. And I am interested in hearing from you. It's just getting going with the new things. I will give you one reference. They are in the chat windows already also, but it is a website which is woodgas.com. Woodgas.com, and you'll in the resources page, you'll see the things about the rock kiln and what it's doing there. I'd like to just reassure everybody that I can make all of this available to people, what they want to do. The main thing is you will be doing it, not me, and that it will be your biomass and your people and things like that. I've got projects around we're looking for low cost. At that website, there's a slide deck of 40 slides. There's a 50-minute webinar that talks about that slide set. So there's more than enough information there for people to look at. And I want to make sure everyone knows that I am reachable, interested in working with you, especially if you have large amounts of biomass, like corn stover, the corn stalks and things like that, that you would like to turn into biochar at a very inexpensive way. So thank you very much. And so I'll go back to being muted, but I'll take any questions if anybody has it.
Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting. Yeah. You know, one thing about the revelations coming from this conversation is the fact that they are also creating business lines for, you know, business-minded, investors, whether those who are direct entrepreneurs or those who are investors themselves who have some money to invest in sustainability activities. And so I'm sure that you're going to be having, many responses to this, including from ourselves, because we would like to also work for you. Work with you, because a whole lot of biomass is generated all over the place, and they can help to turn carbon back into the soil, as John has already, found. Thank you, Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Yes. Good to have you.
Speak now? Yeah. Can I?
Yes, please go ahead. Please go.
Yeah, my name is Yahya Ahmed. I'm director of Developmental Association for Renewable Energies in Kaduna. We are quite involved in this carbon CR especially. So I was a little bit surprised when you said you really don't want to do with the compliance but do you have really, if you go out of the compliance, you really have a mechanism where you can trade this.
Okay, can you hear me? I guess it's hello. Yeah. Okay. No, essentially, Nigeria is still developing its own registry, and from Kyoto Protocol through the ISO down to the SDGs, you can find that there are a lot of methodologies, and all of them come to the same thing. Can we aggregate? Can we verify and validate that emissions have been avoided by any activity? And so we have a hybrid of the methodologies, which may not necessarily, because you see, the challenge has been that the CDM presented a lot of challenges for a lot of people who would have loved to be part of, to reduce their, to get revenue, to get income from what emission reduction. Can you hear me? You're having challenge with your technology? Hello, can you hear me, sir? Alaji, engineer.
I can hear you.
Very well. Okay, so what we're saying is that there's a mainstreaming of the entire methodological processes that ensures, that in a simple manner, without, going the bulky way that has stalled the market anyway. You can now, measure, verify, validate, and then come to the exchange, and we'll work with you. When we say compliance, we are actually talking about a system directed by state, the government, which is the state party in the UNFCCC system, but there are also the voluntary mechanism, the voluntary system. So there is no mismatch. It's still the same work, achieving the same 2030, 2050 goals, by combining knowledge, combining methodologies, and all of that. I don't know if I made some sense in what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you did. But my question is here in Nigeria. I mean, do we have really the environment and the platform even? Who will be the off-takers really, and how will they, how will they really be sure? I mean, what is
the system we are creating? The system we are creating is that we are mobilizing, offsets on green projects registered on the carbon exchange, and we are going to aggregate and quantifying, verifying, validating. That's what we're doing, validating those projects to see how much of emission avoidance happened by their activities, and then simply putting on the carbon exchange. In the last event we had, Credible Carbon was on that webinar. Vera was there to Eco Securities, and of course there was a convergence of opinion that again that is the way to go. As long as this thing is traceable, verifiable, then is the appropriate thing to begin to do if we must capture and encourage scale up of green projects deployments across economies, especially in Africa, so that we can actually be part of, especially those non-party players, will be part of those who are earning credit and earning income from their activities.
Because we have a big project with the rice producers, with these rice husks. For example, apart from other things, the whole rice value chain, especially this rice husk, is a huge.
Yeah, especially where you find a rice husk is burnt. Okay.
Yeah.
Rice husk could be converted to briquettes.
Yeah, exactly.
Put into the efficient process of rice. That we can work with you, quantify emission reduction that would have happened. Okay, if they were burnt in those rice husk dunes.
Or allowed to decay. Sometimes they allow them to decay, which produces methane, which is even more dangerous.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, engineer.
So I think I would very much like to work directly with you from Kaduna here, and maybe we communicate later on another platform to be able to see how we can synergize together.
Thank you, engineer. And we want to appreciate when we saw what you're doing. Okay, this is all part of what we are talking about. You need to bring it out. You don't have to be keeping it in some
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We want to listen to the representative of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Cyril Bicom is. I tried to introduce him earlier, and it looked like he wasn't there yet. I hope he's here. Mr. Bicom, are you with us? Hello, sir. Yeah. Okay. Any other further questions while we wait? Any further questions? I want to appreciate Mugdum, who will be looking forward to working. We'll be working together in global partnership. We'll see what is happening around the world. And the important thing is, since the world is one big global village, we need to also bring ourselves working together to scale efforts and then to also multiply results. Okay, any questions for them? Talking to now our panelists and speakers, if there was a question on the chat that has been addressed to you, please can you respond? Now, yeah, the essay to governor in Lagos State, I think he asked a question here. I say, how close is Okomu and indeed the large oil palm producers to achieving RSPO status and possibly getting carbon credit? Yeah, maybe someone may want to take 2 minutes to let Mrs. Hammond understand what has happened with RSPO. Samuel, are you there?
Okay, yeah, I'm here. I thought I've answered that question on the chat. Presently, Okomu is RSPO certified, and we're going for our first surveillance audit in about 3 weeks' time on RSPO. And it's good to know that not only in RSPO, but also in supply chain. So both go hand in hand. And for carbon stock, presently, Okomo is still monitoring its emissions and also its carbon stock. And we are still doing some regeneration of some forested areas, which we are replanting about 50 hectares. And so we want to continue monitoring for the time being before, while putting plans in place to go into the carbon stock market. But presently, we've not ventured into the carbon stock. We're just trying to strengthen our monitoring and also our assessments to know how much we can sequential and how much we are emitting before we can go into the carbon stock market. But presently, Okomo is RSPO certified, and we are also going for our surveillance audits in a few weeks. Thank you.
Yeah, very well. Again, I will still say, Samuel, we're available, to work with you on this. And I can tell you that since you started your new refinery, and I'm sure it's completed, because the time I was there, you're just beginning that. That's some years back. I'm sure that a lot more activities must have happened in avoiding emissions, okay? Or practices that are reducing it. And I'm sure you alluded to some of them in your presentation. And what we are saying is that, look, working with eco-carbon, okay, we can aggregate this, all right? And then simply use some methodology we developed to verify that this really happened. And then we can begin to work while you're monitoring, and we'll be monitoring as well with you. But the ones that you have avoided. And so we can take them up as well. Okay, yeah. Okay, any further questions for our panelists? Meanwhile, Cyril, are you in the house? Can see me again. Okay. Now we are going to make some, bring a closure to this through a process of final comments. Okay? Yeah. Yes.
Get a question?
Okay, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
for Mr. Budwine. Eh?
Okay.
Well, your center, I would like to know if this research and teaching, is it already existing or you are about to set it up? And where have you started in Africa?
It's not yet existing, it's half existing. One part is in the Netherlands, that is the machinery which is being developed, and the other part is in Kenya, in which we, and the big part of what it is the way we're organized. It's not so much technology, and it's the way we organize the process of taking the CO2, which is emitted in Europe, and it drifts over to Africa, and in Africa they make good use of it and sequester it. And so it's a different concept, no carbon credits, but the companies who have a CO2 problem and are interested in solving this problem in an alternative way, being involved in it instead of buying credits and not caring about what happens. These are involved companies, mostly small companies. We don't want to deal with the big ones. So no, the first one is not running yet, but it's coming.
Okay, I just want to know. I'll send you an email anyway, so that we can talk.
Yeah, I already answered your email.
Pardon?
I already answered your email. You have the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look at it. Thank you.
We're very happy for what is happening between Ejide and Mr. Baldwin. This is one of the beauties of creating this kind of business webinar. We want to also be involved in the exchanges so that we can bring value to whatever we can bring value. Thank you very much.
I think
you can be certain that we will deal with you.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
We have no choice.
Okay.
You're the first to do this in Africa, I think, to organize it this way. So, yes.
Very well. Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. I think in Nigeria we have a huge potential. Both, I mean, from wherever you look, and we are just being too dormant, and a lot of huge resources. I mean, the potential are so huge, which we at least with eco-carbon really we have to take the from the private sector really, because I see from the, if you like, compliance, or in our case, Minister of Environment, nothing much will happen. So we really have to take it from the private angle and really do a lot, a huge potential which we have to exploit. Yeah,
we are dealing with small amounts, small groups, and you cannot afford to get in the certification business with that. It's too expensive. It's more costly to get certified than to run.
That's right. That's very true. That's very true. And so that's the value we are bringing to bridge, the discouragement that is happening around the ecosystem. I want to thank you all very much, for being around for this webinar. I want to appreciate our speakers, and maybe they want to say final words, and I can see.
Yeah, but that's one.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to appreciate our speaker. I want to appreciate the audience. We had about 130 people register for this event, and technology did not deter them. John, you want to say? I don't think there's a question for you, but you want to make a final comment in 2 minutes? Yeah. You want to say bye-bye with
yes, please.
Words?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'll keep it very short.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here. Over the past year that we developed our farm here in Jinja, I've seen the amazing big difference it makes when you start mixing biochar into your soils. It's unbelievable how much better, how much more farmable your soils become. So instead of burning, making charcoal, and burning it, making charcoal, having charcoal dust, burying it, mix it into your compost, mix it into your soils. Yeah? Our soils had less than 2% organic matter. Now, thanks to the biochar, we are getting to 7-8%. So we really mixed a lot. The yield, the biomass, the growth, the moisture management, it's beyond belief. So you do the carbon sequestering, you contribute to climate change, but at the same time you guarantee the future of your own farm, of your investments in agriculture.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you again, all the participants and the organizers. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't let it be a one-off.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do another one. We'll do another one. We'll be sure to bring you again. The essay to the governor of Lagos State. I cannot appreciate you. I hope you are hearing me. You are muted. Mute yourself. Very well. Okay. I was just saying that I want to appreciate you. I cannot appreciate you enough because you've shown a lot of presence and. Right from the planning up stage, you've been interested in it. You want to say something, especially with respect to, linking up what you already said, maybe in terms of inviting investors into your. You've already asked Okomo some questions, but you want to say 1 minute bye-bye with whatever.
Thank you very much. And really, I think the thanks go to you. I think this has been very exciting, extremely insightful, and is only the beginning of great things to happen. Without a doubt, everyone is very, very invited to come to Lagos. As I've said, we're doing a lot in Lagos. We have massive farm estates. We have a lot of land. People don't typically think of Lagos State for agriculture, but we encourage you to do so. We have lots of farmers here who are doing great things, and we would love the opportunity to collaborate to improve on, all the things that we're doing. So you read about things like, in the Netherlands, again, people growing tomatoes, and Shell is passing CO2 into the farms. So they're sinking their CO2 there, but that's helping the tomatoes grow better. And we're hearing all these great things that are happening with regards to biochar. Those are opportunities. Kola Masha, who's done so amazingly well with Babangona, I was talking to him 6 years ago, and the farm was, a tenth of the size it is now. So, just exciting things going on. But he says there's a challenge with sustainably manufacturing biochar. Well, maybe there's a role for a partner to play to do that. One of the things I say earlier is my husband also runs a palm oil plantation. It's not quite as big as Okomu, but it's one of the top 5 in the country. It's about 4,000 hectares. And he has a company that he's met recently that takes some of the agricultural waste. So, when they cut the grasses, when they get too high, that company needs that. They have companies that are taking their kernels and producing soap. And so that for me is one of the elements, and maybe that's a role that the carbon exchange wants to play, bringing these partners together to do things that perhaps the farmers themselves are not positioned to do, or may not even be aware that they could do, to add value and to make everything more sustainable, and to just sustain the circular economy that is so viable and so possible in agriculture. We're talking about rice husks. Lagos is building the largest, what is going to be the largest rice mill in Africa, 32 metric tons per hour, which will be ready December of this year. And we're going to be doing probably about 1.9 how much of rice husks will be generated. There's opportunities there as well. So, we're happy to work with you in Lagos State. We're all very accessible. Our emails and phone numbers are all there on the Lagos State website. I'm happy to put mine in the chat after this. So we're happy to work with you to establish sustainable businesses that help us increase our yields in agriculture. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, SA. Yeah, it's incredible. Like you just said, urban farms, home farms, everywhere in the tropic, you have sun. And as long as you have sun, you can turn any enclosure to food production. I think the world has heard you, and we're going to come your way soon. Yes, Kola, what's your last 1 minute in this event that you want to say? Kola, are you still there? I guess Kola must have muted himself. Okay. Yes. Kola, your final word? Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, first, I think wanted to thank the organizers and really this community for really trying to think about how we can really leverage our combined strength to solve this very challenging problem, while at the same time creating value for particularly, I think, significant opportunities to create value for farmers in Nigeria. I think at the end of the day, I think what's going to really be critical is to, as much as possible, try and see how we can get a proof of concept off the ground as quickly as possible. And I think the great work of Okumu and that they've talked about, and to see how we can, and I think we would be very happy to work with partners to see if there's a way that we can create a proof of concept where the actual everyday smallholder farmer might be able to benefit from some of these programs as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Samuel, what's your last final one minute word?
Okay. I want to thank EcoCarbon for this platform. It's also been a wonderful interactive section. Just like Jan has said, I would like, if this is not just on a one-off thing, something that continue, and we'd like to see more awareness to the general public on Kamustoka and to let them know that you can actually benefit from this thing, not just naturally, but monetarily, which is one of those things that attracts people. Let them know that, yes, you can benefit from this, and let's make the planet a better place. We can see what's going on around the world, and let's make Nigeria especially safe for our future generation. And hopefully, we'd like to see good partnerships with you to see how well we can push this forward a bit, and to see how other people can benefit from it. And like Colin has just said, also in the supply chain line, even with the smallholders coming into place because of the various sustainability standards that we're involved in, would like to also, those will also benefit from all of these programs. So thank you very much, and thank you to our esteemed participants who have taken the time to listen, and for all those that joined us from around and outside the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. I want to appreciate everybody, and I can assure you it's not going to be one-off, because climate change and carbon-related issues is everywhere you find human economic activity. And so while we are trying to rev up information and then to create awareness, education, and activism across all the sectors, we will still have an eye on our big sectors as well. And agriculture, you can be sure, is one of them. So we'll do this often, not just doing it again, but we want to do it until it begins to stick rather. Thank you. We are ending it now. Next time when we invite you, please don't hesitate to prepare for your contribution. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello there, Innocent. Can you hear me? Innocent, raise your hand, wave to me. Yes, I'll start my video. Hi, I'm gonna put my picture over here so it's in front of, whoops, I can't, I'm looking at a different camera, so I can't talk to you the same way here. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I would like to offer to present at some future Zoom or webinar meeting that you have. Samples of what I have done are at my website of woodgas.com, and so you get some idea of what it is. I have things which I have not put up on any websites yet because I'm still working on it. I was working on it yesterday in my garage, and there's one of them is a unit that could go into the fields, and they would pyrolyze the corn stalks and excess biomass there and leave that biochar in those same fields. It's a major thing. If there is burning in the fields, then we would want to have that as an option, okay, as an opportunity for it. I'm going to get this, one moment here, exit full screen. If I can just move, hold on 1 second here. There we go. Now I'm looking at my camera. All right. So Will you be doing some more in the future, or how can I participate with you? Oops, you're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes, now I can.
Very well. I said that we are going to be having series on agriculture, surely, and not only agriculture. We are going to be having series across all the economic sectors, whether renewable energy, intensive energy systems, and all of that. So, but what I would say is that we need to create an event that will afford you an opportunity to make a presentation, okay? So that, you know, you can give that global, use that global platform to give a greater understanding to your technology, you know, and the business sides to it, okay?
Yeah.
So we will plan that. I will need to get your, you know, the details, what aspect of it, so that we can now create a forum for presentation on that.
Okay. I put my email address and contact information in the chat box.
Okay.
I do not get yours, so you need to write to me, please.
Yeah,
okay.
So I'm going to write to you now, so that you just okay. Yeah.
And
you can write. Okay, you can see that either in azi@yahoo.com or azi@ecocarbonexchange.org. This will come to me.
oh, okay, you put it in the chat box. One moment.
Yes.
Let me get that out of here. Copy. I've got a message going over here. I've collected all these things.
Okay. It's clear.
One moment. Yes, I have it. So then we can write and come up with a. Okay, my work is with regard to pyrolysis. And making biochar and carbon dioxide removal, CDR. Okay. And I am writing a fairly long white paper right now about it. It's not even released yet. And so these things are all things which I can discuss and present about. Maybe at some point I'm a resource person for some other event.
Yes, sure.
If it relates to biochar, it relates to pyrolysis, it relates to this excess biomass, I'm very much interested in that.
Okay, I want to inform you. We are planning one on the construction and mining sector. Construction emissions, you know, mining emissions, you know, especially, we know that those sectors are energy intensive, yeah, but we're also looking at what other emissions that erupt by reason of those activities. So if it's linking up to what you do, fine. If it's not, we will create another one very soon. You know, we are going to be touching all the economic sectors.
Yeah,
you know, and then we'll continue also on agriculture.
I think that the construction and mining is a bit too far removed from my main focus.
Maybe somewhere in the forestry.
Forestry, yes, very much for forestry. And if you do something with regard to climate change specifically, it's in a more, it covers more topics than just the agricultural aspect or the forestry aspects or the others that I could be involved with. So, let's be in touch. Let's see what we can do. I mean, I've been to Africa like 25 times, and Uganda, and I lived 2 years in Mozambique. I speak Portuguese, so been to Ghana. Another thing which is I'm work with is pyrolytic cooking stoves.
Cooking stoves, okay, clean cook stoves, yeah.
Yeah, clean cook stoves, and and if there is a project that you know of in Nigeria or anywhere where they have a good supply of pellet fuel. Pellets, yes, okay. Rice husk pelletized or from wood or mixtures and combinations of it. I have a project with a man from South Africa on a cooking stove that uses pellets, very clean burning. And we're looking for locations where it could be implemented, but we have to have implementation partners. We can't be there. I mean, this has to be a project in Nigeria or in wherever country, whatever place it's going to be.
You know, during the conversation, we mentioned, rice briquettes, and Nigeria is heavy in rice production. And when you go to all the rice processing clusters now, you have massive mounds, of rice husks, okay, which ordinarily should be converted to efficient energy products, briquettes, and then feed the clean cook stoves. Okay, but because it's not happening, that has affected the clean cook stove. But we still have in Nigeria, those who have been working on the clean cook stoves technology. We have many of them are adopted the CDM mechanism, and and it's been tedious with them. So we will want to work, and probably find some other operators that might try work with your own technology, and we'll be in the middle to create for them.
It should be, for this particular stove, it should be pellets, like 6 millimeter, 8 millimeter, not the briquettes, which are much.
What are they bulky? Yes,
they're more bulky. They won't fit in. They don't fit in right. But that's something to keep in mind. So it's a pleasure having met you via Zoom, and we'll see you again sometime. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Bye. A pleasure. Bye. Okay. Exposure. Okay. Some other class here. Who are the people? Okay, just John B. Okay. So we can go. John B is still there. Have you ended?
No, I'm not sure.
You
can end it.
I can end it. And for